Bermuda grass, lots of concrete, glass shards in the dirt. Now, how do you transform all this into a pollinator and people-friendly, beautiful space? Well, Ian and Deb Daw have figured it out, and they're going to show us how. Well, Ian, this bed here certainly looks to be very friendly to our bees and our lightning bugs, and I understand this is where you started.
Yes, when my wife and I moved into this house, nothing was here apart from the concrete slab and 2 areas of lawn either side. The very first bed I dug was this one, aiming to be a vegetable bed. The biggest challenge was removing the Bermuda grass, but also the glass shards. Just out of this area of soil, I got approximately 3 pounds of glass shards. We had to sift the soil, and we had to do that for most of the beds you've seen so far. When we're not using the beds for our own produce, as you can see, we plant some annuals, and this year I've just allowed borage to grow up and just allow the pollinators to enjoy life there. Just come, visit, do their thing.
Well, pollinators are certainly something we all need to have around, and you're using a lot of natives to attract them.
Yes, our garden is approximately 60 to 70% natives. We do use some nativars, and I've got approximately 45 species of American native plants. Most of them are native to Tennessee, but I have used a few which might not be native to Tennessee, but the pollinators are enjoying them and they're loving life here in our yard.
Well, let's take a look at some of the things you've done with all these great pollinator plants.
Excellent.
Ian, I'm a little surprised to see this beautiful purple beauty blooming for us here. Don't we usually see this in the fall?
We should do, theoretically. It is New England aster, and I bought it as a pollinator favourite to fill in fall blooming. But this one, for some reason, blooms for us every June, maybe into July. So it's a little early. The pollinators are loving it. I don't know why it's blooming early. It's one of those things it's doing.
Well, if it works, it works. Now, it's going really lovely with these beautiful yellow flowers that I'm seeing all kinds of bees and other insects all over.
Yes, this is shrubby St. John's wort. As you can see, it's a great profusion of yellow flowers, and the pollinators love collecting the pollen. Doesn't supply much nectar to pollinators, but it does provide a lot of very protein-rich pollen.
Now, a plant that we see a lot of places that people love, and I always love seeing it, are our beautiful coneflowers.
Yes, I do have 2 varieties of coneflower in our yard, the echinacea and the Tennessee coneflower. It used to be a rare coneflower, the Tennessee, but through management and people caring for its environment, it has come back from the edge of extinction, as it were.
I know that you all have been sort of cross-pollinating, as it were, in the garden, and Deb has a whole other take on things.
Yes, and we both work closely together and come up with our own solutions for different areas of the yard and garden.
All right, well, we will cross the concrete divide and see what Deb's got going.
Excellent.
Well, Deb, I like the way you're using every square inch here by planting herbs in between the flagstones.
Yeah, we're real close to the kitchen, and it makes it great for when we actually want to use them. Also, when they do bloom, they are pollinator magnets.
Wow.
I know they're not native, but I don't know, something about culinary herbs, the pollinators love them.
Nothing like a dual-purpose plant.
Yes.
Food for everybody. Now, you also have this wonderful dual-purpose fruit trees that you're growing.
This is the 5th year for our espalier, and it's sort of a experimental thing. We're learning as we go. They take 5 to 7 years to produce fruit, so hopefully in a couple years we'll start getting fruit. It's a long process when you keep cutting them back like you have to do with an espalier.
Well, they're gorgeous, and why did you put them here on the property?
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of trees all around this area, and we actually made a map when we first came here and mapped out how many hours of sun we had every day in every square foot of this property. And this one was the most beneficial for fruit trees, which needs the most sun of almost anything.
Well, and it really makes a great divider between you and your neighbors as well. It's just a beautiful living fence for you.
It is a nice fence, yeah.
So I just love having a yard with fruit. You've got all your apples. You have, oh my gosh, peaches, and they're so darling and they're growing. And wow, this beautiful area. This is a lovely little nook that you've created.
Thank you.
Now you've got some beautiful daylilies, and then you have a mixture of all kinds of other great pollinator plants.
We find that roses work really well for pollinator plants. That's a flamingo, and it's a single, and we find that pollinators really like singles. And so we've planted several single roses. I just love roses, period. We don't spray them, so what you see is what you get. They still are really beautiful. I also tried in this area to make a little nook, especially because we had a lot of apartments back there and everything, try to make this a little intimate place.
Well, it's just beautiful. You've got the phlox. You have, oh, you've got a lot of bee balm up
Bee
here.
balm, yes.
For everything.
And this right here is a native to the southwest called, it's an agastacia or hummingbird mint. And we have several varieties of that will really come on in about a month.
Right, so you're getting something in every month,
yes,
flowering for all of your
for both the
pollinators.
hummingbirds and the long-tongued insects.
So, and I really appreciate the way you're using all these fresh wood chips that are recycled from a local arborist, right?
Yes, and there's no way that Ian and I could keep up this yard weeding if we didn't have something to suppress weeds. And that's what this is. Plus, it suppresses weeds, plus over the long haul, improves the soil.
Well, it is just a gorgeous work in progress out here. And let's go this way and look at some of the pollinating insects.
Okay.
Deb, this welcome mat of a garden that you have for all the pollinators, this is great.
Ian and I first started with a smaller border, but we've increased it because of the hill. The Monarda here is a pollinator magnet, and then of course the phlox that you see several places here are beloved of butterflies.
Oh, they're beautiful.
As well as the Liatris.
Oh, and just the shape and the form show that you can do beauty and you can do good for the neighborhood.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. That little helenium there I found growing at a garden center, and I brought it home and it reseeded itself and is a little annual, but the pollinators just love it. A lot of these plants are just because I'm a gardener and I love to garden. I love the lilies, I love the peonies.
Well, shade is certainly a challenge for a lot of people, and you have managed to get some pollinator-friendly plants in the shade.
Yes, thanks to my husband. He has planted here the native geranium, cranesbill, and that's a celandine poppy. The cranesbill blooms in the spring and it's beautiful, and the celandine poppy is blooming pretty much most of the gardening year. You'll see a little bit of bloom on it. This is an added challenge because there is a silver maple whose roots penetrate this, and so whatever we can find that will compete with the roots, we're glad to grow here.
Well, whatever your challenges are, it might be a lot of glass in the yard, it might be a lot of concrete. Whatever those are, remember that you too can make a garden that is beautiful and friendly for wildlife.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.